Munich may be known for Oktoberfest, but when we were there, we came across a completely different festival.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Thanks for tuning into the Travel FOMO podcast. I'm Jamin Houghton, and I'm here with mon Frau, Hilarie Houghton.
That's me, Frau Houghton.
And today we are talking about our time in Munich.
Munich, Germany.
Yeah, it was fast and furious while we were there. We got to do a lot. There's so much to Munich. It's the Bavarian capital. It's in a very beautiful part of Germany. The weather was a little gloomy while we were there. It was a little rainy.
A little want.
But that didn't stop us from seeing things. Munich was almost, I think, like 80% destroyed during World War II. But when they decided to build the city back, they were kind of debating, do we build it back as like a modern city or do we build it back the way it was? And they elected to build it back the way it was. So a lot of the old original buildings, like the town hall where the big glockenspiel is that you can go and see it go off. It reenacts historical scenes on the hour when it goes off. That the town hall is original, and all the buildings around it, even though they may not be as old, they look historically accurate. They're built back the way they were. So it's really a cool place to go visit and see. There's so much history there, so much to do. It was my first time there, but not your first time. You'd been before.
Yeah, that's right. My sister and I went a long time ago, like 20 something years ago. And we came across, actually, I think that might not be true. I think it was like 15. I gotta so we came across, I'll never forget, we came upon the English gardens and really just kind of relaxed in these gardens, and we came across a nude beach there in the English gardens. So it was a little bit different experience than it was for you and I. It was very sunny while my sister and I were there. It was excellent weather, and if you want to hear all about our perspective of the nude beaches and the surfers that are in the middle of Germany, you can go check that out on the secret season. So we have a good time reliving that. So.
yeah, we got into that on the secret season, which was a lot of fun. No nude sunbathers while we were there.
No, it was
really
April
cold
this time.
And a little rainy.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cold. And we, I believe you had said we arrived from Strasbourg, France, and we stayed at Hotel Daniel, and it's a pretty average hotel, very affordable. It's what we were going for. So we were kind of surprised by, how they really brought it whenever it came to breakfast.
Yeah.
There was a free breakfast and we didn't think much about it. And we went to we might not have even, did we even take advantage of it every day? Yeah.
We did. Yeah. We weren't expecting a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because we had to book the hotel last minute because our Airbnb canceled on us.
Oh, that's right.
And so it was like a mad scramble to find a place. And so we were like, well, I guess this will work, I guess. And it ended up being great.
It was great. They brought out, it was mostly a cold breakfast, but it was awesome. They brought out ham and cheeses and hard-boiled eggs and coffee and tea and a bread basket and all kinds of stuff. And the bread baskets had pretzels in them.
Yep.
And so my favorite thing that I figured out was I'm getting this pretzel and then I dip it in the chocolate sauce, and they serve chocolate in a little plastic jelly container. And so you peel off the top of it and you can dip your pretzel in this chocolate.
Breakfast of champions.
I loved that. And then I would sneak away some of the bread because we not working anymore.
Right.
And so I was sneaking away the last of our bread basket because it's pretty obvious they're gonna throw it away. And so I'm I'll eat it later. Snack lady, hello.
Right. Walking around with bread from from the continental breakfast.
Yep, exactly. But they did such a nice job. And like the guy there was like so sweet, and he took a lot of pride in his breakfast that he presented to everybody, and just it was really pretty nice. I ended up loving our German breakfast. I say German, Austrian, Switzerland, the kind of breakfast we had there.
Yeah.
I ended up really liking them. They weren't necessarily hot breakfasts, but they weren't hot, but they were like really well done and great display and everything. Like they always took a lot of pride in that. So
yeah, they were actually all really good and helped us out a lot, like you said, financially.
yeah,
Because we would eat kind of a big breakfast and then really not eat again till dinner. So it worked out great every time we had it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember on our first night there, we were like, okay, well, we were going to go to an Augustiner beer hall.
Yeah.
And we were all excited we're going to go to the beer hall.
And we were going to go all the way across town. We were like walking
right.
a long ways. Like I was like, we have to go to this specific one that is supposed to be the best. And you were like, really? I was like, yes.
Yeah. I was like, we walked past one. There's one like right there.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, this is the one that we have to go to.
But what we didn't know, like, sorry to like interrupt, but this is kind of important. We found out that Augustiner, every beer hall that serves Augustiner, the name of the beer hall basically starts with Augustiner.
Right.
And then they put their like more localized, or the name of their like beer hall or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little misleading because like in an American sense, you would think that they're all part of the same chain,
right?
But they're not.
Correct.
It just means that they all serve that kind of beer,
right?
And so like for me, I was like, wait, are these all kind of the same places? Maybe we just go into this one. And then we kind of started realizing like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, it does make a difference. And so
yeah,
we were headed to the one that we identified as the best one. And we got there and they're like, sorry, we're closed for a private deal. But on our way, we had walked past the street and we noticed there were a bunch of bright lights and a Ferris wheel and some kind of carnival happening.
Yeah.
And so the instant that the beer hall was off the menu, the carnival automatically jumped its way to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And we headed over there and it was really, really cool. It was a super local thing. So I felt like it was at least 75% like high school and college age kids.
Yeah.
There at this deal. They had several beer tents and things like that. They sold like pretzels and cookies and all kinds of stuff, like obviously a lot of beer. But I was surprised that almost everyone was in like traditional garb.
Yes.
Like dirndls and lederhosen, but they weren't like cheeky. They weren't like Halloween costume, like cheap stuff. They were like real legit lederhosen and dirndls, and they were wearing them for real.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a costume party.
Mm-hmm.
They were wearing them with like their cool shoes, like Vans and Doc Martens and things like that. A lot of the guys had their lederhosen on with like a hoodie over it and stuff like that. I was kind of blown away. I didn't realize that traditional dress was still kind of a thing, almost like cowboy boots and cowboy hats in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That there's still a bunch of people that wear them for real. That it's not like a dress up thing. It's like, no, I put on my cowboy boots tonight.
Yeah.
And that's the way that they wore that traditional Bavarian garb there, particularly to this festival. And I just thought that was kind of amazing. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was literally, I think I talked to you about that all night long. It is the only notes we have on the carnival. The only thing I wrote down about the carnival was every single thing that everybody was wearing. Great depth. I mean, like I literally researched this for so long, and then I started sending pictures home to everybody I knew at home, and I was like, oh my gosh, check this out. This is what people are wearing here. And it's so, I thought it would have been something outdated, but it is very much modern.
Yeah.
And they've modernized it in their own way. They also, they're very likely to wear it for holidays or big events or weddings or things like that. Like whenever they get dressed up, they go super traditional, which I thought was really cool. And then the other thing that I thought was so neat is that, like, if you guys aren't aware, James throwing out some words there, but like dirndls are what the girls wear, and it's like this ruffled apron dress that's really tight around the waist, and it's got like this bodice, and then it kind of like poofs out into this skirt that comes down below your knees, and girls still wear it that way. They haven't turned it into something super sexy or super modern. I say modern, they haven't turned it into something like super short and, you know, tried to make something that it's not. They've kept it pretty traditional in some ways. And so they're all wearing these dresses that are like coming down to their calf, which I find like so interesting, that they're not trying to make it promiscuous or anything. And then at the same time, guys are wearing like the lederhosen, which are like the shorts with the suspenders, usually made of leather or suede. So really nice, like nice stuff. And then with the girls, I thought it was so interesting because their bodice would usually have a bow on it, and that's how they would kind of express to the world their relationship status. So it's kind of like the Facebook status. And they still do this today, supposedly. The girls, they tie it on the left or the right, and I don't remember which is which, but one side means that you're taken and the other side means that you are available. I just think that's so fun. And just to see all these kids running around, they made it culturally relevant and cool.
Yeah.
It was like, what? I did not know this.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did try a lot of food there, thinking that it would be like the state fair or something that we could get like super legit food there.
Foodie, yeah.
And it was not that way.
No. No.
It was mainly there to like have fun and like drink beer. So the food wasn't great, but we did have a few good things, but
but we even got like a pretzel and it was like cold.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like
awesome. we got a few things that we were really excited to try, and they were just sort of like meh.
They were okay, but I got like some mini pancakes, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they were so good. Like I'm talking about like the size of like a 50-cent piece maybe.
Right, yeah.
And but yeah, and they like you would eat them with a toothpick, and they had like drizzled like I think chocolate sauce and maybe bananas or something. Like I got to pick my toppings, and it was really good. That was one of my favorite things we had that night.
Yeah. Do you remember we bought that cookie that says like, didn't it say like I love you or something like that?
Ish libby dish. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like a cookie necklace.
It was a cookie necklace, and that was another thing that like, it wasn't as popular as I thought. Like I was like, what is this cookie thing? And I bought it, and it's less about like it tasting good, I think, so much as like you buy it and you give it to somebody.
Right.
So you basically bought it and gave it to me. And I was like, oh, and I got to like wear it around my neck.
And it's a good thing that it was made for wearing and not for eating, because it wasn't great. We tried to eat it and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was just like a gingerbread.
Yeah.
And it was a little hard, and it was
I feel like at the fair or something here, guys like do some kind of carnival thing, get like a stuffed animal for their girl, and there they just buy them a cookie necklace.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, that's probably true.
That's kind of.
I did see some of the young kids sporting them. But that was just so much fun. I was thrilled when I saw this huge Ferris wheel glowing in the night. I was like, I want to come back here no matter what. Like, we are doing this.
Yeah.
And then when all the dinner plans didn't work out, it was like perfect.
Yeah, it was great. We walked over there, and it was really exciting, and really kind of one of the first times that we've been around like a bunch of people. Like, we had been in some crowded places, but like a place where like people were kind of shoulder to shoulder and pushing through. Every place was just kind of opening up after COVID, And you could tell that everyone was really excited to be doing this sort of thing again and getting to have these kinds of celebrations again. And you really kind of felt that in the air and felt that way. So it was a lot of fun to get to do that.
Yeah. And it was super German, super Bavarian. Like nobody else from another country. Like we were the only ones that I could tell.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing that we didn't do so much, but there were just tons of beer gardens, like pop-up beer gardens throughout the carnival. And that was really fun too. And I think one of them was like a carousel bar. And so you could go sit on a carousel and like drink beer.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fun. Like you could tell they know how to have a good time. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. And then the next morning we went for a run as always. And believe it or not, it rained on us again. Oh my gosh. I was like, I'm over the running in the rain at this point. But we went to the English Gardens because I was thinking like, I want to show off these English Gardens to you. Like I'm going to help you find this nude beach. You know, I'm sure you want to see it. And there was like nobody there. Like it was like all raining. But it was kind of nice though.
Yeah.
Because it was quiet and like it's this huge park.
Oh, it's massive.
And so we had plenty of space to run many miles. And I don't even remember how far we went that day. But you wouldn't even think that you were in a city when you go to the English Gardens.
Yeah, it's so big and so massive, and when you get in the middle of it, you just feel like you're out in the country.
Yeah.
There's that big the Chinese tower there, like a big beer garden with this Chinese tower in the middle of it. That was really cool to see, and it was kind of fun. That I'm sure it would be amazing to see when it's all full of people on a bright sunny day too, but it was kind of fun to see it basically deserted. Like we kind of had the place to ourselves because of the weather.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a really nice run.
Yeah. And the thing that always sticks out to me too about that park is there's a river that runs through it, and there are like local surfers that literally go and surf the river. And I don't know that we got to see that at all.
We saw the spot where they do it, but there wasn't anybody out there.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just a cool thing. And if you happen to be there, you really need, if you're in the garden already, you need to go see those surfers. Yeah. Because people just stand around and watch them. It's pretty entertaining. But so after that, we went to see some cathedrals. Surprise. Yeah. And we went on a walking tour, which was pretty good. What would you say stood out to you the most about the walking tour?
Well, I think it was in St. Peter's Church. Along the sides of the church, so there's like the main area of the church and then these offshoot little chapels along the sides. And in one of the little chapels, there was a glass box, a very ornate glass box containing a very ornate skeleton. It was this lady, was it Mundita, I think? But she was the patron saint of single women and said to protect the single women of Munich. But her skeleton was in there, and it was wrapped in jewels.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and granted, in Europe, there's a lot more death and morbidity depicted in kind of everything in art and in sculptures and in things, but seeing a skeleton in that box, I was not prepared to see a skeleton in that box, and especially a skeleton
case in a church.
Yeah, you're in this church and you're like, oh, there's this glass case. I wonder what's in there. It's some kind of artifact or some kind of, crucifix or something like that, and you walk over and it's a skeleton, and
with a ton of gaudy jewels all over them.
Yeah,
which is kind of odd too, because although churches and cathedrals can be so elaborate and they can be a little bit like super ornate and expensive looking, I guess you could say. I wouldn't expect somebody to put their wealth on display like that.
Right.
In a church.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and just something kind of crazy that was not expecting,
Yeah.
but we got as part of that walking tour.
Yeah. I think you and I might have gone inside and happened to just see it. And we were like, what is up with this skeleton
Right.
with all of these like jewels on it? And then we went on the walking tour and they told us about it. And we were like, oh my gosh, yeah, now we know what that's all about.
Yeah. It kind of made more sense once once we got it explained to us on the walking tour, which is another great reason to take a walking tour. But we also got walked through like the glockenspiel that we had seen earlier, and the festival of the Dance of the Coopers was going on while we were there. And so the Coopers are guys that make barrels, and so they make the barrels that all the beer is stored in. The crazy thing about the Dance of the Coopers that we got to see while we were in Munich that we didn't know until we got the information from the tour is that the Coopers do this dance, and it's depicted on the glockenspiel and all this stuff to commemorate the end of the plague. And it happens every 7 years. So it doesn't happen all the time. It was supposed to happen in 2026, but they moved it up to 2022 to mark the end of COVID.
Yay.
Which is crazy.
Another plague.
Right. Like the new plague.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that this thing has happened every 7 years where the Coopers get together and do this dance since the last pandemic.
Yeah.
And now they do it again.
Yeah. It's crazy that there is still pandemics.
Yeah.
And that like we've survived one of them. You know?
Yeah, it really is. And you look at Europe and the plague there, the Black Plague was such a big deal there in so many places. And you're just reminded that you do survive.
Mm-hmm.
And life does go on and it continues. And the Dance of the Coopers marks that. And I thought it was really cool that we got to be there during that time.
Yeah, as like Munich was celebrating the fact that COVID was over.
Yeah.
And we were there to see them celebrate, you know?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Is there something you know about that revolutionizes the way you travel? Can it solve problems and help people around the roadblocks on their adventures? Is it just plain cool? If you have a product like that, we would love to tell people about it. Get in contact with us, and maybe next time we'll be talking about your product right now.
So one of the crazy stories to me about the Munich Cathedral in particular is the whole legend about the devil paying for the cathedral.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't gone on a tour.
Yeah, the walking tour is where we heard this story. And the story goes that the devil made a deal with the people of Munich that he would pay to have the cathedral built if they built it with no windows. So the cathedral
sold their soul to the devil.
Right. Which is, it's so crazy that like the devil's like, yeah, I'll pay for your cathedral as long as there's no windows.
Sure, I got some money.
But and so they construct the cathedral, and they do so where it has windows, but the pillars that run down the middle of the cathedral hide the windows from the entrance. So they said they completed the cathedral, invited the devil in. He stepped in, couldn't see any windows, and so paid for the cathedral and then left. And there's this footprint on the floor that's said to be the devil's footprint. Like that's where he stepped in and didn't go any further. So he didn't see any windows and paid for it. And it's just such a crazy, funny story to me that like you would be like, man, we really need a new church. I don't know how we're going to do it. Maybe let's talk to the devil and see if he'll pay for it.
Yeah. Well, and the really funny part is like you guys, when you look at the video on YouTube, you'll see that like we go and we stand in that same spot. And it is true that there are no windows that you can see along the sides.
Right.
But you can see a stained glass window right in front of you.
Yeah, the big
like,
stained glass window.
The big one at the end, that's also a window.
Yeah.
So I just think that's funny because it's like clearly, you know, nobody tried too hard.
Right.
But it is an interesting part of the architecture of it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah. And for there to be a footprint that's preserved inside a church that's supposed to be the devil's footprint. That's funny.
I wonder whose footprint it really is.
It's the devil's.
It's the architect's
He wears
probably.
size 9.
That's very small. We also did a little shopping because the shopping is really good right there. So
yeah,
like
actually,
you're in this whole historic district, but there's also a lot of new shopping, and yeah, I was super impressed by the shopping. We got you a rain coat.
Yes.
Because up until this point, you had been walking around in a really cool coat, but not a waterproof coat. You were like, no, it's waterproof. And it's like, no, it's not. It's water repellent, maybe. Yeah, but it's like definitely not waterproof. I, on the other hand, was super proud of my like North Face raincoat that I'd purchased. And it was like hardcore waterproof. And then we ended up getting you something, you know, that was like that. Something legit. Because when you're getting rained on constantly for days, you've got to have something that's just repelling the water like crazy.
Yeah, I had struggled before we left as to whether or not to pack something, and I ended up not bringing a rain jacket. And then I couldn't believe that I made it through England and Scotland and Ireland without necessarily needing one super bad. And then it had just rained so much on us in Strasbourg and then in Munich that we just finally broke down and bought a rain jacket.
Yeah, but it was a perfect purchase. Like, it was worth it.
Yeah, I wore it quite a bit, and it's come in handy a lot of times since then too.
Yeah.
So,
is that hard for you to buy something like that on a trip? Like, to be like, I'm gonna buy something, like, one, I'm like freezing because I didn't pack warm enough clothes, or I packed way too warm of clothes and I am just like, I'm sweating all the time. I've got to get some like t-shirts and shorts or something. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I need to be reminded to like budget with that in mind. Budget, like leave room in the bag, leave room in the budget to buy some clothes when you're wherever you're going. Because I think that's the hard part for me, is like an unbudgeted expense. Like it's really hard for me to go there, and especially like buying a legitimate rain jacket that is waterproof. And I even went back and forth. I was like, do I just buy something cheap that maybe can just get rid of later on, or do I buy something legit that I'm going to keep? And I ended up buying something legit, which I was glad that I did. But yeah, I think I need to be reminded, like, put money in the budget and room in the bag to buy some stuff while you're wherever you're going.
Yeah. Well, and I just think about like, I think my thought more is just, you know, you want to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Are you not going to enjoy yourself for 7 days, 10 days, like 3 months? No, that is absolutely not going to work. Like, it is worth the $150 to get you the legit jacket so that you can enjoy yourself and not think about this day after day. You know? So.
No, I agree. I think if you find yourself in that situation where you're like, okay, what I have isn't cutting it.
Yeah.
And I need, whether it be shoes or a coat or like something warmer, something cooler, just like you said, like, I think it's worth it to spend the money. It's hard for me to do that, but it is worth it.
Yeah. So that was a Saturday. It was it was kind of a weekend. We spent like the weekend in Munich. So we like came out on Friday night, went to the carnival all day Saturday, around town, shopping, enjoying ourselves. And then that night we were exhausted.
Yeah, because we had got up, had gone on a really big run, the walking tour, all the stuff, the shopping, go. And that night, like, we came back, we're like, you know what? We're going to get a good night's sleep. Like, we're going to go to bed, get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And we lay down, and there was some kind of bar or something on the ground level below our hotel room. And the people were getting after it. Like, they were having a grand old time. It was so loud.
It was so loud. Like, they had the most fun.
Yeah. They were having a great time drinking their beer and their Jaeger and whatever else they were having. And it was so loud. And I remember laying there in bed thinking like, it feels like we're in the same room
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
these people. Like,
It
there's,
felt like they were outside the glass.
yeah,
Right there.
like they were just right there. And I remember thinking to myself several times, like, how is it this loud? Like, how are they this loud? The window has to be open or something. But I was like, I know I closed all the windows yesterday when we got here. I know they're closed. Like, I know they can't be open.
Yeah, we haven't opened them.
Yeah.
Why would they be open?
And so, man, it just went on and on all night long. At one point, like, you could tell they shut the bar down at like 3 a.m. And then like some girl like screamed.
Like, I was scared. Like, I remember thinking like, oh my God, is she okay?
Yeah. I remember thinking the same thing. And then you could hear her and a few other people laugh. And so it was like, okay, she just got like startled or something. But it was crazy. It was one of those things, like, screamed so loud that you're like, we're gonna have to call somebody.
Well, and every time somebody would like throw something in the trash can, it was like 2 tin cans with aluminum cans in them. And they just kept pouring them from bucket to bucket over
like
and over
trading.
multiple times in the night. I was like, what is happening down there?
Yeah. They were like, they would come out and like throw bottles, like bags of bottles away, and they would clank. And
well, and there was like a cement, like it was almost all cement down there. So like you've got the hotel, and it's like, it's basically wall to wall with these other buildings, like office buildings and stuff. And it kind of creates this like courtyard down there.
Yeah.
And then down there at the bottom of the courtyard, it's not like there's grass. It's like concrete, like, so everything is just echoing off of each other like crazy.
Oh, yeah. And we finally, at like 4 a.m, everyone went their separate ways. We were able to sleep for just a little bit. And in the morning is when we realized that when housekeeping came in to clean the room that day, they had opened the windows.
The window was open.
So we need not suffer like we did all night long.
Mm-hmm. If only one of us had like gotten up to check the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
a long night.
Brutal.
We like still, that is like the story. Like when I think of Munich, I'm like, oh, remember that one night.
Right. We left the window open. So stupid.
But the bed we had was like awesome because like we were in that part of Europe where they would put 2 twin beds together and make you this ginormous
mega
like
bed,
king size bed.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's awesome. And like super white sheets and white, coverlet.
Yeah.
And I like love that so much. But yeah, that next morning it was Mother's Day. It was Sunday.
Yeah.
The beginning of May, it was Mother's Day, and it was super special because you made it super special for me because if you guys have heard some of our other episodes, you know that we had a daughter named Hollis, born in 2017, and she lived 6 days, which is not long. She was born the day after Mother's Day.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And she was due like right before Mother's Day and just like was hanging on. And but she only lived 6 days because she had a genetic disorder that we happened to both unknowingly be carrying the DNA for that, and she got it. And so we still celebrate Mother's Day, though, because of her, and it is our way of celebrating her, is to celebrate Mother's Day, to celebrate Father's Day, to celebrate her birthday, and it was so sweet that morning. I hadn't thought a whole lot about it. It was easier not to think about it, Mother's Day and stuff, since we were traveling and there was lots of other stuff to think about, but at some point while we'd been shopping in Munich, you had gone into a jewelry store and gotten me a gold band with these little diamonds in it.
Yeah.
All the way around it. And it was perfect because it's a little stackable ring that would go with all my little stackable rings that I all wore together. And you'd got me another one, I think the Mother's Day before that.
Mm-hmm.
And it had like the little emerald for her birthday for her birthstone, and then with diamonds and little emeralds and stuff. And then I have another little ring that says Hollis, and all this stuff. But all these little stackable rings that kind of represent her. And so you added to the addition, and it was perfect, and it fit and everything, and it was just exactly what I would have gotten for myself. And it was like super sweet to get to celebrate and to be remembered. And even while we were traveling, and the fact that you snuck away from me and somehow did that, it's kind of crazy. I don't even know how you got away from my grasp.
Well, we were shopping, as you said, and you like to try on clothes. And when you try on clothes, I know that I've got a good half hour to do about anything that I need to do. And so I snuck over across the way to a little jewelry store that I'd found and got that. But it was fun to get to celebrate and celebrate away. And because Hollis was born so close to Mother's Day, I feel like every time Mother's Day comes around, you kind of like brace for impact a little bit.
Yeah.
And, knowing that we were going to be on this trip and in another country, like it was fun to get to celebrate a little and do it that way with a little surprise.
And the whole day ended up being a day that honored Hollis in a way we wouldn't even know. Because we ended up going to the Neuschwanstein castle, and it was like, we come to find out, we didn't really know, but it's made of a certain kind of stone that they call the New Swan stone, hence Neuschwanstein. And swans was kind of like Hollis's mascot. Her whole bedroom was decorated in swans. So swans have a lot of meaning to us, and we kept seeing them throughout Europe, and it was super special for us. But to be at that castle on Mother's Day, oh my goodness, it was pretty meaningful, and it was actually pretty easy to get there. And we'd kind of braced for like, oh man, it's going to be crazy. We're going to have to take a bus and a train and another bus. And we were like, what? But it was no big deal at all.
No, it was
so many
easy.
Tourists go there.
Yeah.
It's a well-oiled machine. But yeah, the views were gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Once you got over your fear.
Oh, that's right. I did have a little bit of a scare. Okay, so here's the deal. You can take like a horse-drawn carriage up this mountain to the top of this castle. And this is the castle, guys. The castle. If you think about like all the castles, if you imagine in your head what a castle looks like, you probably think of the Disney castle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the castle that inspired the Disney castle.
Right.
So this is like Cinderella's castle, more or less. And it's up on this mountain, and you have to take a train to one city, then like a bus to the next, and you take buses to the point where you can start walking. And it's like 40 minutes, an hour of walking.
Yeah.
You could take a horse-drawn carriage. A lot of people do walk the road though, but we decided to hike a trail. And I let you convince me that there were bears, and I was actually like a little nervous. Like I was like, I wonder what kind of wildlife exists here. Surely there's wildlife. I mean, this is like really, it felt like we were in like the Black Forest. Like it was legit forest of like fairy tales.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're like hiking through this, and then all of a sudden I kind of look down and I'm like, well, that's not a footprint. What is that? Like, that's not like a deer print. Like, what is that? And then pretty soon I was convinced that there were bears.
Yeah.
So
you're making lots of noise.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
shouting, hey, bear.
Hey, bear. Hey, bear.
Our whole way
hey, bear.
Up the mountain.
Yeah.
But we finally made it.
Yeah.
Safe and sound.
And it was beautiful, and it is very touristy. Like, I was a little disappointed we didn't get to go stand on the bridge that gives you that like perfect view of the castle.
Yeah.
I was like really bummed about that, but for some reason it wasn't open and it might have been COVID that they just had it shut down or something.
I'm not sure why the bridge was closed, but it was
Yeah.
closed.
But I kid you not, we're like approaching the castle and you can hear live music. Somebody is playing with a violin When You Wish Upon a Star from like the Disney theme song. I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. Like, this feels like pretty cool. And then we get there and it's, we took the official castle tour, but it's a little stale, might be the best word for it. It's a little stale. Like, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it because this castle is pretty unique. It's really a pretty, of all the castles out there, it's a pretty new castle.
Right.
And it was built in the late 1800s, I think. But nothing really ever happened there.
No, nobody ever really lived there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad, really.
Oh, I can imagine for you especially because you're like, the history of all those places we go to is what makes it so amazing.
Yeah.
And then this is like kind of, there's not much history there.
Yeah. I mean, it is a beautiful castle and straight from a fairy tale, but
yeah,
no one ever having lived there, it just makes it feel odd. It just feels odd.
Yeah.
That a castle wasn't ever anybody's home.
Yeah. Well, and the story behind that is that is it Ludwig?
Yeah.
Ludwig? King Ludwig. King Ludwig II actually commissioned it, and then he never really got to see it come to fruition because he was arrested there in his bedchamber, I believe at that castle, and taken to prison in Munich, and then was found the very next morning. He drowned in the lake there. Mysteriously, under mysterious circumstances, which is like, they said that, and that's all they said. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're not going to elaborate on that? Like,
yeah,
what?
It was like they just drove by that fact real quickly and didn't tell any more of the story.
Yeah. Oh, it was the weirdest thing because it seems like there's a lot there. But there are actually 2 different castles in that area, and both are associated with King Ludwig II. He grew up in the other castle that's there, and I don't even want to say the name of that, Neuschwanstein. And so that castle is there. You can actually buy the tickets to both of the castles and in one combination. And I wish we'd done that because that castle probably had a lot more history to it.
Yeah. In retrospect, I wish we had done both as well. I didn't think that we would have time to, but I think we probably did have time to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish we'd done both. Yeah, and we walked around a little bit. There's a little monastery there that we got to see, and we took the bus and then subsequently the train back to Munich. We actually got to go to the Augustiner beer garden that we originally had set out to go to and had dinner there. The food was actually really, really good, which was the first kind of German meal that we had that we really, really enjoyed, was there. I think I had schnitzel.
I got like a charcuterie board.
That's right, yeah.
Me. And it was really good. It was kind of what the waiter recommended, and it was like awesome. It was great.
We had a great waiter there. He was like super nice and very helpful, and we had some beers. Yeah.
And just for y'all's reference, in case y'all do want to go to this one, it's Augustiner Braustuben. So just FYI, it is on, well, it's not close to the glockenspiel. So
no,
just know that.
Yeah, it was a little walk from the town center, but not terrible and worth the walk. It was a really, really cool place.
Yeah.
Our time in Munich was pretty short considering that we spent a whole day going to the Neuschwanstein castle, but loved everything that we did there. Was a lot of fun. You can go see our YouTube video where we've got a lot of that there for you to actually see for yourself. You can also keep up with us on social media. TikTok and Instagram are a couple that we're pretty active on.
Yep.
So go connect with us there. Tell us your Munich experiences. I know Munich's a really popular place for a lot of people to go. So tell us what we might have missed. Like, keep us in the loop. It's definitely a place we want to go back to. So let us know what we need to hit up next time we're there.
Yeah. I would say every place is pretty much a place we want to go back to.
Yeah. There's not very many stops that we had that we don't want to return to. It was a pretty great trip.
Yeah. So, well, you guys, yes, find us on social media, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast, and do it now because life is short.
Wander well.